Hello fellow space engineers, this is Marcelo from ACFM Gaming, and today we continue our third batch of testing, which would be actually kind of like the fourth or the fifth, because I've been doing tests with this whole armor deformation issue with my friends, and we have been making interesting discoveries, and perhaps the most important one is that it may not be related to the deformation mechanic on itself. It may be related to damage transfer between a block that is deformable and a block that is not. Now, as you may heard me before, like my friends Seth and Sokunen, they are the actual brains behind this whole operation, and they are the ones that know actually how the mods work, how the vanilla game works, and especially how to tweak those values into let's say affecting the game's blocks when it comes to damage and the way it spreads. So without any further delay, I'm actually gonna quote Sokonen in the Reddit post about that he made about this whole issue, which has been getting a lot of interesting commentaries. So, and I quote, "The hypothesis my group is going on based on our testing is that the damage from deformation is calculated as physics damage, for example a collision, rather than a block health damage. Non-deformable blocks seem to have fairly binary responses to physics damage. Either it's below a threshold and they're unhurt, or it's above a threshold and they break. We think that per shot damage values above a certain threshold cause the quote-unquote collision calculation from deformation to exceed the threshold of most non-deformable blocks. So it's like you smash into them, into an asteroid, and then they just break. This is backed up by the fact that non-deformable blocks specifically, programmed by Keen to be particularly collision resistant, for example blast doors, welders and grinders, seem resistant or immune to the poofing issue. Now, allow me to demonstrate. And this is going to be the first testing of this. And this is the 88 gun from the CSD mod pack. The battle cannon comes with this one for small grids. And this is a weapon that at least used to be infamous for the amount of damage that it could inflict on a large grid. It was basically a capital ship killer. So, to my understanding, the author, I think, the author actually corrected this, but we don't know to some extent if this actually invokes the whole, damage leak bug or whatever, the poofing that we're calling it. So let's try it again. Yeah, apparently it's fixing this one. It's not even deforming the armor, as you see. Okay, this one did deform a little, but just a tiny bit. Also, one thing that we discovered is that it's not related to projectile speed, and a lot of people, especially in the Reddit post, have been commenting that vanilla rockets cause this. To this point, I found out that they don't, at least on the testing that I have made. But I mean, we know about this issue from long ago, so it may be that the conditions that enable a rocket to actually perform the whole poofing are not being met. So allow me to show you. And this is the interesting part. You see the deformation that it causes goes inwards. It's like crumpling, a piece of paper. Well, let's see. While if we use the OKI weapons 230mm gun, it does the complete opposite. It actually deforms the block outwards. And like I said before, I mean, at this point we don't think this is related to the deformation. The deformation is more of a symptom of the whole problem. There you have it. So as you see, here this block deforms outwards. And maybe what this is telling us is that the damage that is being transferred is quite significant. Now, according to what I just read you, what Seukonen said, This may be this may have to deal with the whole binary mechanic that you see with non-deformable blocks, that they can either be existent or broken or unbroken. They don't have different states. Like the health line that you see there is not actually being affected by damage when it's transferred, only when it's hit directly, because this block doesn't deform. So there's no actual transfer of a specific amount of damage. It's just either it's gone or it's there. So, okay, enough rambling. Now let's do some testing with other well-known mods. This is the CSD autocannon, and is comes in the same pack as the 88. And we have confirmed that the 88 is no longer the capital ship killer that it used to be. So let's see. I cannot see the laser. Okay, I want this to be as precise as possible. Wow. Just wow. And yeah, the kickback. You saw the kickback. The recoil on that thing is actually way worse. Or let's say, wow, significantly larger than than the one from the 230mm. Now, something that I want you to take note of is this. Look at this welder right here, and you'll see why. Now, the containers didn't burst. I know containers tend to burst, but for some reason they stopped doing that, fortunately. But okay, the welder. Now, why I want you to see that welder. So let's get back to our original test platform. Like Sokona was saying, some blocks are programmed to be particularly resilient. Sorry about that. Resilient to that damage transfer. Now, Spaceballs used to be one of those. Now let's see. Well, remember that they were nerfed. I have to mention that. So let's check that. There you have it. Completely gone. Now, welders and tool blocks. Remember that they were fixed, they were buffed, so they won't break on contact before, because before they were, just breaking as you were welding something. If there was a desync in the server, or maybe you just flew too fast into the ship that you wanted to repair, they broke. So keep in mind that the welders down there didn't break. Now let's see about this more specific test. There it is. Didn't break. Now, damage check, 0. Like I said before, with these blocks, is either they're damaged or they're not. Sorry, they're destroyed or they're not. Now, let me damage the welder specifically and see if it does transfer something. So apparently it goes one way, but not the other. Now, okay, I know I've been rambling about this for quite a long time, but this is what I'm trying to show you. When we were saying before that this is not necessarily related to the deformation mechanic, that the deformation mechanic is just telling you what's happening. And now, how does what I'm gonna say affect you as a player? It has to do with player-made weapons and how destructive they can be. Now, one of the discussions that we were having last night with Draki and Seth and Seukonen is that is a refinery a good candidate for a large grid weapon or of mass, I don't know, penetration or something like that. And we're talking about, well, okay, it's quite pricey, but maybe you can get out all of those components if the damage that you can inflict on a ship is superior to the cost of the components that you see here. Well, here's the thing. Let's see how much health a refinery has. This is going to affect how people design player-made weapons. So a refinery is 123,060 hit points. It's I think by far it's the most hit point heavy block in the game. Now I'm gonna try to compare that to a single thin, one layer thin wall of light armor. Remember that we're talking about here. We're talking about penetration here. Now, ideally, what would happen is that this refinery would take damage, like its damage would be reduced, its health would be reduced, and then it would continue, penetrating and breaking blocks. And let's say, in an ideal situation, the health of those blocks is going to be subtracted from the 120 something, hit points that the refinery has, in theory. I don't think I'm gonna get enough speed, but that will serve actually better to test what I'm trying to achieve here. There you have it. That's exactly what I was talking about. The refinery as armor, I mean, if you want to place it in a secure place, to maybe to further anchor like blocks like gyroscopes that that cause damage, is gonna be perfect if it's going to be hit by a weapon. But if it's gonna be hit by a collision object, a player-made weapon, is as good as nothing. And that's the issue that we're pressing here. It ended up not being the formation of the blocks. It ended up being how the game handles damage when it's transferred from a deformable block into one that is not. Apparently, it's the same mechanic as a collision. I mean, it's not a weapon hit. It's as if the objects were colliding. Now you can say that, of course, in real life, like a bullet impact is a collision. Yeah, I know, but that's not how the game is actually processing this at this point. Okay, now for more, explosions, let's try this. This is, let's see, this is the Chem Rail by Jumping Shootman. He's the creator of that interesting scenario, the Fox Hunt. And this mod has a characteristic, and sorry about that. It used to have an insane inertia transfer. Let's see. I have no idea what that was. I guess the sound is broken. I should have tested this mod before. But it was an interesting discovery, nonetheless. And it kicked me back quite a lot. Well, as you see, it fully destroyed that column, so I guess it's not gonna... I'm not even gonna try it against a turret. We know what's gonna happen. Now let's try the Railgun by Laser Maniac. Let's try on this one. You see insane inertia. Let's try it against... Let's try a vanilla turret this time. Yep, same thing. So the reason why I chose all of those, long battle cannons, where it be a laser, a railgun, or a traditional like shell-based weapon, is because the common denominator that they have is a high damage output. And what you see here is damage traveling, and the damage extends over a series of blocks, and as soon as it gets to a block that is non-deformable, it pops open. And yeah, there you see, it does pop containers, but it doesn't affect blocks that have a high resistance to collision, to impacts. So for those of you that were saying that, okay, I was using modded weapons, that's completely fair. I mean, you are right about that. You won't see that in the vanilla game, but you're gonna start to see it more and more. The more people use player-made weapons, the more guided missiles, the more like torpedoes you see, and that's at this point maybe not as exploitable. But recently we have been seeing a proliferation of those weapons, the ones made by my friend Whiplash, and also Ardav, and many others before. Pennywise and Alicius have made such weapons, and they are relatively cheap to make, and a small torpedo, even an unguided one, because it happens a lot in multiplayer servers. It's like when people is offline, they get their stuff stolen, and you can just lob an unguided torpedo that it could be just like a few metal grids and a battery, and that's it. That's enough to fully destroy everything that you have been building, especially the expensive blocks, the FTL drive, these large thrusters, the refinery, and so on. So these things right here are actually being more dangerous now because of that whole damage leak. Let's call it damage leak because it's not deformation. Damage leak mechanic. So keep that in mind. Also, if you decide to utilize it, how you design, especially the penetrator tip of the torpedo, because that's gonna change a lot. So, okay, I hope you have enjoyed this, and please keep sending me all your insights on this matter, like the experiences that you have been having in servers or in your local sessions with this issue are really important. And I think we're getting really, really close to finally hitting that spot in which we know what's the damage threshold that causes the poofing issue. And I guess as a parting note, I would say that that's gonna put a cap, like a top cap, a ceiling on the damage that you can, set your mods to have. So modders should actually take that into consideration. If they're gonna make a super powerful weapon, they're gonna have to consider that cap, and in essence, that's going to limit the, let's say the capabilities of those mods. Because I know many modders, like, they create, okay, I'm gonna make this amazing weapon, it's gonna like fully destroy everything, but I'm gonna make it super expensive, so like, players are only able to make one, and it's gonna be balanced because of that. If the damage threshold, I mean, no matter how expensive it is, once the player reaches that, they're gonna be able to, inflict this, and that by itself, it's unbalanced. So please keep that into consideration, and let's keep testing stuff, let's keep playing, and let's try to make the game better.